Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Kason Morris Learnings. I am Kason Morris and happy to have you here. To life design, and I focus on your life, your work, and your legacy. So happy to see you again, and also to be joined by my producer and co-host, Chris Fernandez. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I think we may have had just a little technical blip there. Like I saw audio forms waving in again. But if you just want to run through and introduce yourself again, just so people are all caught on board. But yeah, my name is Chris. Welcome. Nice to be here. Happy to be here. We're building the ship as we're going.
Yep. Again, so if the audio did mess up, again, I am Kason Morris. This is Kason Morris Learnings. Super happy to be here. This is where we talk about everything related to life design, career design, and legacy building. And we've been running episodes organically for the past 4 weeks. This is week 5. So really excited to have you all here. And what I would love to do before we get into today's episode is just give you a quick snapshot of the model that we use. So, this is the Design for Life model. And as I said, I'm a known learning and org development expert and also certified life designer. And this is the model that I use to break down, how to essentially structure your best work in life, and it falls in 3 buckets. Initially, we talked about your life and the things that you love and live for. And for this month, we're going to talk about your work, and it's like, what can you get paid to do? And then next month, we're going to talk a little bit about legacy. So really, really excited with this episode to talk about work. Again, for those that don't know about my background, I've spent about the better part of almost 2 decades in the talent and organization performance space. And at the end of the day, it's really been all about how do you help people do more at work and have fulfilling and meaningful careers. So, going on to that tenet around the idea of your work, I break this down into 3 unique factors. So, when thinking about your work, it's the idea of thinking about capital as it relates to your work. And that's understanding that we are now in a world of work where skills are your currency. And then I talk about leverage. And this is how you can use your skills to create leverage to start to design the work and ideally the life that you want. And then last but not least, the idea of creating autonomy. So once you're able to achieve the other 2 components of capital and leverage, this gives you all the tools that you need essentially to create freedom for yourself in your career. And the overall target in this is to create what I call agency as it relates to your work. So this is a very, very exciting topic area for me. And for today's episode, we're going to cover that first bucket, which is all around the idea of creating capital, or what I call career capital. So what are we going to cover in today's episode is this idea of what is career capital and why capital beats passion. And then I'm going to talk through some ideas around how you can start to build career capital, and then round everything out with ideas around how do you actually compound that career capital once you start to build it. And so with that in mind, it just really makes me think about this, and this is a bit of a controversial statement. I feel like a lot of folks that I have worked with in career design and career development, they say follow your passion. And I think that, frankly, following your passion is terrible advice, especially when it comes to your career, because passion is something that many of us aspire to follow in our career, but it may not be the best approach. It has a lot of drawbacks, such as like losing that spark that you have. And then as a result, when you lead with passion alone, if you don't achieve your goal, people tend to quit faster. So I don't know, Chris, like, what are your thoughts here? Like, have you heard this idea of people saying they should follow their passions when it comes to their careers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's yes, it definitely is like follow your passion. It comes from the same saying. I think I grew up with like if you do what you love, like you never work a day of your life. And I agree with like certain sentiments of that, but I also understand that now as a business owner and like I get to do what I love, but there's also a lot of being like building a business that I do that I don't love. You get me? Like a lot of people tend to want to leave their day jobs because they don't like having a boss. But the truth is like though you don't like having a boss, when you become, a business owner, you still have a boss. You are that boss. You get me?
Yep.
You're
Yep.
no longer just the engineer or the technician just like doing the stuff. Now you have to like be the face and you have to do those other things that you were pissed that your boss was like, you didn't realize that your boss was giving you all this attitude because they were the ones who were the face of their, business and brand, and you were getting the short end of the stick because you were just keeping everything afloat. But when you go to start your own business, the roles reverse, and now not only you have to be your own boss, you have to be the technician as well. So it's like
Yep.
there's a lot of things that I'm learning now, and it really like introduces and makes you think about those words in terms of like are we able like can we technically do what we love, in today's world? Can we like be passionate about what we do? And I think there's still room for that. I just think it gets a little harder the more complex things get as it does you need to like take these certain steps to navigate to build a business. Like there's just pieces of it that are just complex and it's just not as
Yeah.
easy as just like this is my passion, I'm just gonna start a business on Pokemon trading cards. Like it's cool, like
Great feedback there. I mean, until that point, like, the whole premise here is passion in work is elusive. It is elusive. It's not going to always be consistent, and it's not going to always yield the things that you want out of your work. And this is why I say that you should look to build career capital instead. And that's what our discussion is going to focus on. It's going to focus on the concept of career capital and how to build it to do the work that you love. So with that in mind, what is career capital? I'm curious. I don't know if we have any viewers on who have a definition or can maybe articulate what that is, but I'm happy to unpack it a little bit. I know we did our timing a little bit different this episode, so I'm not sure if we have any folks online that would comment on around what career capital is.
we don't have anyone on YouTube. We have 5 people on LinkedIn. I think we have Tim Mr. Meaningful. I can't see the rest of the name at the end of it. But I see that he's in the room. So let's get into it. He seems excited. But yeah, nothing yet. I mean, we could wait a little bit. But
No, I'll dive right in and just have people chime in. Just for context, it's actually a term that was coined by an author named Cal Newport, and the whole point of it is it refers to the skills that you have that are rare, valuable, and can be used as leverage in defining your career or work. So at the end of the day, when you think about career capital, it's a measurable resource. And that's the main thing that I want people to start to think about here. And it's that idea that your skills that are rare and valuable plus can be used as leverage for you to figure out what you want to do in the work that you have. And this is a very different way of thinking about it. And that's why I frame it around the idea of thinking about your skills as resource and your skills as currency. Because if you have skills that are rare and valuable, they give you the ability to do more in the work that you're doing now, so you can create the work that you want to do. And what I wanted to talk about was like, why does this beat passion? It's really because this idea of capital, when you really think about it, it becomes more valuable than passion because you can measure against it. It's something that as you build more skills in your career and you focus on skills that are rare and valuable, depending on what the market needs and what you want to do, it it means that you have more advantages that you can gain. So, like, you're able to take more control over your work and connect with more like-minded people based on the amount of skills that you have. And having career capital can also help you avoid getting stuck in a job that you don't enjoy. And this makes me think about, your career journey, Chris, in the sense of, like, you started in a discipline around user experience, UI, UX, graphic design, but and you had a successful journey in that discipline, but you were able to use some of the capital that you had, which were the skills that you had from that domain space, to start a pathway to things that you were more aligned to, which is doing media and production work. So I really want people to think about that a little bit. It's not about the job being the container, it's about the skills that you gain in the job that can help you craft your way forward. Chris, were you going to comment on that?
Oh, no, no, no. I was just nodding, moving along. I was getting ready to respond to a question.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's my whole point around the idea that, capital compounds at the end of the day. As you're building those skills, you can continue to leverage them and build them into the next thing. Whereas passion, frankly, does not. You can have a passion for a thing and you can want to do that thing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're building skills because you're passionate about it. And in it,
Oh, 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 hold on. Lost your audio. Interesting. I don't know. Can you try talking again? I can't hear you. I can't hear you right now, Kason. Interesting.
that can help you craft your way forward. Chris, were you going to comment on that?
Oh, no, no, no. I was just nodding, moving along. Interesting. Hold on. I'm gonna throw up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Okay. That was weird. Yeah, you just went completely silent out of nowhere there for some reason. We're still live. Hi, everybody.
Awesome. Well, I guess we're back on set, so that's good. I mean, I know these things definitely happen. So
Yeah.
glad we were able to manage that.
um, you were talking about something earlier, and I did have a point that I wanted to bring up in regards to career capital and just how like it it doesn't necessarily have to be skills and things that you learn in your career per se. Like there
Yeah.
are lots of skills that you learn that can be considered capital that come from that come from all inspirations, that come from all like mediums, that don't have to be one to one related with your career or work. I would say a lot of the capital that I earned or got that I consider career capital came from schooling and came from like the core the core definitions of like design and influence and like shaping good ideas and how to communicate those good ideas have led me, that's what made me stand out in UX, but also like that partnered with UX has now made me stand out in production. So it's like it wasn't related one to one with my career, but it was,
Yep.
you know, it could be schooling, it could be the fact that you're funny, it could be like little things. It doesn't have to be something that's one to one related to what you do with work, I would say.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. But with that being said, there is like a process that I like to think about when it comes to developing your capital. I associate it with career in this context, but I do agree with you that it's really around your skills. And those skills can come from different places. But where it starts to actually become career capital is when you start to leverage those skills in a way that can help you move forward in your work. So, what I would love to talk about, and that was a great comment, is transitioning into the idea around, how do you actually build career capital? And I would say that it really boils down to two things, and this is just my point of view, based on my experience in building my own career capital and helping others do it, is that it really boils down to practice and dispositions. So what I mean by practice is actually deliberate practice, and this is the really the key to improving your performance in a skill. And that involves really being disciplined in setting goals and getting feedback for yourself. And the other element is the idea of dispositions. So, Chris, to your point earlier, right? Sometimes there are inherent qualities that we have that can improve our personal or professional success. So, learning more about your dispositions and you can do that through like personality tests as an example. That's something that will really help you understand, where do I excel? So even though you may be good at a job skill, maybe there are other skills that you're really great at that you excel in, that could be a pathway for you to do meaningful work and to build capital or leverage that capital to start to like, do things related to your career. So what I like to think about in relation to like how do you approach it, right? So I think one of the first steps when you talk about building that career capital, once you think about practice and dispositions, is you got to audit your skills. At the end of the day, is you audit your skills and the market, because when we're talking about it in the context of building career capital, as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, it's really about rarity and value of skills. So I think of skills in not just in the sense of them being like technical skills or soft skills or hard skills. I think about skills in the realm of also like what's high value, what's durable, and what's perishable. So when you start to think about skills in that way from a capital perspective, because if you're using the idea of capital and currency, it's like now you start to look at like, hey, what are the skills that I have? What is the market or the job that I want to go to? What are the skills that are relevant for that job? And, do I have these skills or do I need to learn them? And then from there you can then execute a plan where you're identifying your strengths, you're identifying areas for improvement, and you're considering your interest in all these things. And that's why I put this sentence out that way, because it's different facets. You think about the skills you have, you think about the market and where you want to go, and you think about, are these skills really like valuable in that market?
Yeah. You bring up an interesting topic where it's like you also like we live like, and I think we've spoken about this numerous times where like we live in this ever changing world
Yep.
where technology is changing day by day. So you really have to like audit your skills and figure out what is a school what's a skill you truly need to be focusing on, because like it seems like having skills that are backed by like a specific tool or a piece of software like will only take you that far, because tomorrow there might be an AI tool that does exactly that or something like that. Like the game changes so fast, and like we were talking about it, like some people are going to like whole like courses and introductory things where they learn how to do software, learn how to become a certain thing, and then by the time they come out of school, that whole role or industry has changed because a new
Yep.
piece of technology has come out or there's a new way of doing things. So it's like you can't really learn everything to kind of keep yourself employable forever, but you have to understand like what are those like core things, what are those things that are invaluable that Kason's talking about that kind of will live forever throughout time that can be applied to XYZ software or can be applied to anything. So yeah, that's the trick, I would say.
No, 100%. I think when I think about the future of work and the future of skills, I mean, you look at everything that's going on right now with like Chat GTP and all this generative AI conversations that are creating essentially shortcuts that would take people a lot of time to do that work manually. But the factor here is that it's not replacing the skill; it's really allowing you as a person to have higher index skills and to work with that technology in a bit of a different way. And that's why in my coaching I really focus on like what are the tools that are sort of like future proof, if you will, that really are human centric, that help you thrive in this world of constant change. So I appreciate that reflection, Chris, because it's very, very powerful. And that's why I align to that whole point of like deliberate intentional practice and like knowing where you are. That way you can really focus and in thinking about learning deliberate practice as a skill. It's not just about doing the reps, you know. It's really about when I think about deliberate practice, it's evidence-based methods of skill development. So when you think about top performers in different kinds of fields, right? You think about doctors and think about musicians. You think about athletes, really, really popular and well-known writers. These are people that use deliberate practice to maintain and grow their expertise. So it's and the key thing about this is that it's very focused structural learning to master a task in whatever it is you're working on. And it takes a lot of effort and dedication. And it's different than how most people quote unquote learn right now, which is like, hey, I'm just consuming this thing. I'm taking this e-learning or I'm going through this course, which can be helpful, but it definitely isn't deliberate practice. So that's why I emphasize like look up deliberate practice, think about how to structure that, and if that's something that folks want to learn more about how to do, I'm definitely happy to share that because I think it's one of those future proof skill sets and mindsets that will pay you back.
Free tag. Put that time on the calendar right now. Wait, let me not even make that sound. I can make it.
So before I go, I go forward. The other thing too, and I don't want to like belabor this, but I do think like understanding your dispositions is a really, really important thing. And it may be a new term for a lot of folks, but they may be familiar with some of these things. And I welcome hearing from the audience or from you, you know, as a part of corporate life, you sometimes take tests like Myers-Briggs, 5 personality traits, strength finders, emotional or EQ tests. And these are all things that help you get insights on some of your preferences around your personality. So there's also like a values assessment. I mean, there are a million different tools out there. So the point I want to make around understanding your dispositions is that it's not about the test fully capturing the complexity of who you are as an individual, but it's a useful tool for self-reflection and understanding yourself and understanding some of your preferences as you go forward. So I definitely suggest whether you're in corporate or not, think of some tools and tests that you can take that may inform your perspective because it's very, very meaningful toward building your career capital and figuring out what skills you want to develop next. I would say if I had to pick a favorite, I would say the Strengths Finder is probably one of the ones that I tend to recommend to those that I coach and work with because it gives you a lot of value as compared to some of the other tests. But that's just my subjective opinion.
Will you provide any like links to any of these in descriptions?
Yep, I can definitely provide them. I'm not compensated or anything for it, but there are a few vendors that I do recommend. But I'd say top line one is Strength Finders. So I'm happy to post that after the live event. Um,
Cool.
so so the last area I wanted to talk about in relation to this concept of career capital is the idea of compounding it. Because now that we talked about the two ideas that really help you build it, which is essentially deliberate practice and knowing your dispositions, I wanted to talk about how it actually compounds over time. And by compounding, I mean the value of your skills increase as you build upon them. So like the more career capital and skills you have, the more opportunities you have to develop even more skills. And this, in essence, creates a very positive feedback loop for you. And there are about four big ideas I just want to share in relation to that. And the first one is this idea of when you think about compounding is control. So as you gain more career capital, you gain more control over your career, and you get to choose the projects you work on, the people you work with, and the ways you work. And this ultimately leads you to the other part of my model that I talk about, which is autonomy, which it allows you to create essentially a career and work that aligns to your values and goals. The second area I want you to think about in relation to compounding and career capital is this idea of creativity. I mean, I know we talk about everyone knows what creativity is, but in the context of your work and building career capital, is it allows you to be more creative. The more skills you have, and building that strong foundation of skills and knowledge, it allows you to take more risk in relation to experimenting with new ideas and trying stuff to get the results that you want. And there's a lot of research that supports the idea in work that people are looking for innovation. They want employees to be innovative. And it's like, well, how can you be innovative? Is you need that foundation of career capital and different foundational skills that allow you to think differently. So you borrow from different disciplines to help innovate and push forward in breakthroughs that can propel your career and the work that you want to do forward. The third component I wanted to emphasize for you all is this idea of connection. Uh, in my opinion, career capital allows you to build stronger connections with other professionals in your field, because when you start to build skills and you start to be perceived as an expert, as someone who is skilled and successful, you'll naturally attract other people that share your values and interests. And through those collaborations, you find opportunities, you find mentorships, you find other ways that you can grow your career. And I attest to this definitely within my own career journey. It's through building skills and getting creative with my work, I've been able to expand and grow my connections in lots of different areas and industries and relationships that have continued to allow me to design and redesign my career for value for the businesses that I work for, but then also for myself. Um, and then the last point I wanted to bring up was this idea of opportunity. To the points I mentioned earlier, when you start to see the compounding effect of building on your skills and your capital, it creates more opportunities for you. And in creating those opportunities, that's where you're more aligned to do the work you love. So don't be a one trick pony. As you become more skilled and successful, you're going to attract more clients, more customers, and more employers that value your work. And this will lead to more challenging and rewarding opportunities and projects that will then, again, to my point around about the feedback loop, it will allow you to grow more skills, and advance your career and develop more work that you love. So those are the four areas I wanted to cover in relation to like how you compound. So to wrap things up here, you know, what I hope you took away from this initial conversation around capital as it relates to your work is that your passion alone is not enough to create this idea of agency in your work. And that instead you really should be focusing on building career capital, which is essentially the skills, knowledge, and connections that make us valuable in what we do. And that career capital can be developed inside your work. It can also be developed outside of work through schooling, through other opportunities, but it's just really thinking about the value of that skill and how it serves others. And by devoting yourself to deliberate practice and recognizing, your feelings about those skills, and that was the point around your dispositions, ultimately you will build a very, very strong foundation for career capital that will continue to grow over time. And with that compounding, that leads you to all the things that I mentioned, where you have greater control, more creativity, more connection, and more opportunities in what you do. And that truly leads you to the concept that I'm going to talk about next week, which is leverage, which then leads you to autonomy in what you do for a living. And in next week's episode, that's what we're going to unpack a little bit more, is how do you use this idea of career capital, aka your skills, to create leverage that will help you craft opportunities to do more work that you enjoy. So there's a true process to this. And I'm excited to share these ideas and to share this foundational idea of career capital with you all. So to kind of bring it all home and recap it, what we covered over the last 20 minutes is I went through a definition of what career capital is, as defined by Cal Newport. I explained some reasons why career capital beats passion, and passion cannot be the primary driver in relation to developing work that you truly love, because passion is elusive. And then I talked about some ways that you can approach building your career capital and using those two techniques around a deep focus on deliberate practice and having a deep understanding of your dispositions. So you're aligning with developing deep skills in the things that you want to do and you have an interest in. And then lastly, I provided examples of how once you develop a strategy for building career capital, how it can compound over time and some of the benefits for utilizing career capital as an engine, as the start of ultimately designing the work you love that you can get paid for, and have a meaningful life. So that's the episode for today. I hope this was a great start and introduction for you guys. I am Kason Morris, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of Kason Morris Learnings. So have a good day, everyone.
Forgetting some house to do, some house to
Oh,
do's.
the house to dos.
Always,
Gee,
always. We got it. We got to
I
like,
forget.
comment,
I
subscribe.
forget.
It's okay. We also need to let everybody know. Thank you for joining us on LinkedIn. We are also simulcasting this on YouTube as well. If you'd
Yep.
like to engage with us and talk with us, we can surface up comments from YouTube specifically on this feed. We can't do comments from LinkedIn just yet. I think I can just show it an example. Yeah, so this is an example of like something that might show up. Obviously, I want to design it a little better and place it on the screen a little better. But this is the idea of what's there. Like, you guys will be able to engage with us, talk with us, and be able to get some better feedback and one-to-one. It's almost like having your own one-on-one call with Kason in front of everyone.
Mm.
But leading into that, if you want to book a special one-on-one call with Kason to again get all these practices and learnings, hands-on time with Kason, please do so via this link below. As well as my name is Chris. I what's up, Kason?
No, no, no. I was going to interject too. Another thing just to plug is that as part of this workflow, we look for guests, and I look forward to anyone sharing ideas around more of the topics they want to hear about, or if they want to be a guest on the show. More than happy to have folks involved. So after I talk through some of the core ideas for roughly about 3 to 4 sessions, I love to invite guests from the community of listeners, or also from folks in my network who align to some of these valuable principles and ideas and have their own sort of take on it. So we'll be looking for people to join the show as we evolve and build on the idea. So just wanted to put that out in the universe as well.
Yeah. Also, another call to action I would like is like if you guys haven't been able to catch on to all these live sessions are living on YouTube now currently. So if you want to go back at the past weeks and just like touch up on the learning so that you come into the week a little hot and warm and you kind of get the gist of what we're teaching here, feel free to go through YouTube and look at all those past videos. Please like, comment, subscribe, engage with them, and then it'll help us, bring better vision and goals to you. And lastly, my name is Chris. I work here as a part of a live studio. I own a live studio. If anyone is interested in running any sort of live events or live sessions like what you see here, please reach out below, and we can make these dreams come true. We specialize in live events and creating engaging live shows. So, yeah.
Awesome. So there we go. There's the sign off. Thank you again for the cleanup and the housekeeping. It's going to get better. This is live. This is really happening. So appreciate everyone who took the time to listen today or who will take the time to listen throughout their week. And we look forward to the next episode.
All right. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
No.